What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down when on earth is NIO's earnings based on what we're seeing and what's going on with all these different pieces of data and updates and what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I break into all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. This offer ends in just 6 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. We had Jerome Powell speak, and he rug pulled the markets again. We saw SPY drop quite a bit. Tesla dropped for other reasons, such as the recall that's happening to some of their models, not to mention the different analysts out there that are giving Tesla some sell ratings. All these different pieces of news caused Tesla to drop. Tesla's looking weak. Aapl started to turn red. Nvda pumped and starting to slow down a bit. The market is turning red, and this led to NIO getting dragged down as well. But what about NIO's earnings? So looking at this site right here is saying that the next earnings is unconfirmed. We don't know it yet, and it might be on the 21st. Other sources are saying it's the 16th. Some are saying that it was supposed to be today, but I didn't see any sign of it so far. There's no sign of earnings just yet for NIO happening just for today. I'm also trying to look at their website, and they don't really have anything just yet. So I think that we have to wait a few weeks. Earnings should be happening within 2 weeks, in my opinion. So once it comes out, we're going to be watching to see what happens. Their calendar is not showing it, so I'm not counting on earnings just yet. And we'll be waiting to see if there are any updates. But for now, I don't see earnings. I don't think it's going to happen this week. I think that it's going to come a little bit later. On November 8th, nearly 4,000 teachers and students from elite teams representing universities across China, they gathered and they witnessed the opening of the NIO Cup Formula Student Electric Car for China and Student Autonomous China 2023 event. So this is once again great for them. As we start to see the technologies coming together, we start to see this racing event that was going on, and with new innovations to be coming, with autonomous racing potentially being developed too. This is very good for AI developments and very good for NIO. So I'm going to be watching this very carefully to see how NIO develops, and I'm very excited for what the future holds. Now, when it comes to other updates, I didn't really see anything for Thursday or Friday so far. In terms of like big earnings, everything is very minor. When it comes to the economic calendar, we had Jerome Powell speaking today. The guy said that the Fed is willing to be more restrictive if necessary. He said that inflation is still too high and the Fed has work to be done. And he basically said that the Fed is open to another possible rate hike if the data suggests it. So we're going to be watching for the next CPI coming out next week. But for now, guys, Jerome Powell caused the market to slow down, and when he speaks, the whole market moves. For tomorrow, around 10 o'clock a.m., we have all the data we need to be watching for. There's some Fed speakers beforehand, but at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report and the Inflationary Expectations Report, which could cause some volatility. Now, for NIO, we had 35 million in volume, almost 36 million. It had high volume, started to sell off on that. And we're going to be watching for these different ratings. Deutsche Bank is giving it a buy rating. We're continuing to see the same trends perpetuate. Now, the question is, how is NIO going to move as time progresses, and what do I see for the future? Well, let's be honest. Looking at NIO, this thing's down 5.68%, continuing to drop. It's in oversold territory. And I think that there's going to be an attempt to bounce tomorrow to reach a 7.6 or so. But I think it's going to continue to trade a bit sideways because we have this head and shoulders. And I think that it's going to eventually drop lower. So it might bounce a little bit at first since we're starting to form a slight bullish divergence, make its way up to 7.6 to 7.7, retest the 50 EMA around 7.6 to 7.7. Then I think NIO is going to end up failing and it's going to continue to drop a bit more. And we could see it close red again. And that's because of the overall market. I know it's not what you want to hear, guys, but it's the truth because SPY rejected. We were talking about this bearish divergence on SPY. I think SPY is going to, maybe it pops a little bit, but eventually it's going to head down for 430 over the next couple of trading days. I'm anticipating more downside. I think the market's looking a bit more bearish. Tesla's likely going to sink to fill its gap at 205. So I think this gap is going to get filled. Then we're going to be watching if support holds. If it fails, it could get very close to 200. It looks a bit more bearish, so just be very careful. Look for a pop to 212 or so. Could go a little higher than a rejection. I think 205 could be coming. Apple's going to likely come down to 180. I'm just going to be very blunt with you. I think we're going to test the 20 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. So I think that we're likely going to see this thing sink a bit lower. And I think we might see 180 very, very soon. On top of that, we're going to be looking at the QQQ. The QQQ on the 4-hour is also looking a bit more bearish. We got this bearish divergence that developed. And I think that we could be watching for 368s to be tested. If we lose this, 365 is also on the table, but nonetheless, I'm anticipating a bit more downside for the triple Q. Now, it could pop in the morning first. We could retest 371.5, then just reject. But I think that the market has more downside thanks to Jerome Powell. Nvidia is looking like it had a topping formation for today. We're going to be looking for it to come down towards 461. 465 should be tested and 461, so I anticipate some downside. We're going to be watching this very carefully. For the dollar index, we have a potential bullish looking structure right here. We're forming like a cup and handle in the dollar. If it starts pushing up higher, we have to see it try to break and hold 106. If it achieves that, that's going to be a bearish signal for the stock market. So we're going to be watching that very carefully to see if that ends up being the case. Finally, on the 10-year treasury yield, you will notice that I don't know if it's showing right here, but we had a actually, it's not showing right here. Let me actually zoom in a little bit. We had a potential inverse head and shoulders somewhere on the chart. I remember seeing it. Basically, whether it's going to form or not, maybe it's not just an inverse head and shoulders. Maybe it just continues going. But basically, we're going to likely test the 30 minutes 200 EMA. If we break this, it's going to try to fill this gap, which could drag the market down a bit. So there's going to be a risk of some downside. And I think all of these factors together, from Nvidia dropping, the QQQ dropping, SPY dropping, Tesla potentially dropping a bit more, are going to lead to NIO dropping more. I think that the whole algorithms are going to take over, and I think that there is a risk of downside. So on the 4-hour time frame, right, NIO looks more bearish. We got this big rejection of the 200 EMA, and we're at support right here. I think we're going to rebound a little bit, retest 7.6 or so. Could go a little higher than that, 7.6 to 7.7. Then I'm anticipating a rejection. I think NIO is going to slowly downtrend towards that $7 area. Now, even if NIO does come down, we're going to be waiting to see what earnings tells us, because we have a possible inverse head and shoulders that could be forming towards the lower sevens. And on top of that, when earnings happens, that could help NIO bounce. So we're going to be watching that very carefully, and we're just going to be patient nonetheless. But with that said, guys, I just want to thank you all so much for listening. Please have an absolutely incredible rest of today. And just know NIO may have a bit more downside. I still believe that after earnings, as long as deliveries are decent for November and we get some good numbers over the next 3 weeks, NIO could still bounce very nicely. It's still going to likely squeeze for 2024. I think that it has a lot of potential to do so, especially after NIO Day, and I'm still very optimistic for the company. But for the short term, there's going to be some downside for the markets. I was warning you about this for a while, and I was telling you that this could drag NIO down to fill the gap. I called this, and this is what happened. And I think that there could be a bit more downside coming before NIO trades sideways for a while, but there's going to be a nice bounce towards the end of November going into December. I think that we're just going to be patient for that time frame. All right, guys, so that's it for this one. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks again, and peace out.